The moment didn't begin with an award. There was no velvet curtain rising, no orchestra warming up, no polished trophy waiting beneath a spotlight. Instead, it began with something far more powerful, something that doesn't fit neatly inside a glass case or on a shelf. It began with a city. A living, breathing city that has seen legends rise, icons fall, and history rewrite itself under neon lights. And on that day in April 2026, that city chose one man. Bruno Mars. Las Vegas is not a place that hands out praise lightly. This is the same city that built empires for names like Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra, men who didn't just perform there, but became part of its DNA. To be recognized in Las Vegas isn't just about talent. It's about impact, longevity, presence. It's about becoming unforgettable in a place designed to constantly move on to the next big thing. So when whispers began circulating that something unprecedented was about to happen on the Las Vegas Strip, people didn't quite know what to expect. Was it another residency announcement? A surprise performance? A celebrity appearance? But what unfolded that day would go far beyond anything fans, or even critics, could have predicted. The streets were already crowded before the sun reached its peak. Fans lined the sidewalks, tourists paused mid-journey, cameras hovered in the air like a sea of anticipation. And then, slowly, the realization began to spread: this wasn't just an event. This was a declaration, because Las Vegas wasn't just celebrating Bruno Mars, Las Vegas was claiming him. A parade unlike any other moved through the Strip, not just as a spectacle, but as a statement. Music echoed through the streets, energy surged through the crowd, and for a moment, time seemed to bend around the presence of one artist whose journey had led him here, not through shortcuts or sudden fame, but through years of relentless performance, reinvention, and precision. And then came the moment that changed everything. That it wasn't announced with dramatic music. It didn't need to be. The weight of it spoke for itself. The city officially declared a street in his honor, Bruno Mars Drive. Let that sink in. Not a temporary banner. Not a symbolic gesture that fades after headlines move on. A street. A permanent mark on the map. A name that will exist long after trends change, after charts reset, after new artists rise and fall. Every car that passes, every visitor who looks up at the sign, every local who gives directions, his name becomes part of the city's language. And as if that wasn't enough, the date itself was transformed. From that day forward, it would be known as Bruno Mars Day. A full day. Dedicated. Recognized. Official. This wasn't just recognition, it was legacy being written in real time. Now here's where things become even more interesting. Because as news spread across social media, headlines began to take on a life of their own. Some claimed that the governor of Nevada had given Bruno Mars a once-in-a-lifetime award, something no other celebrity had ever received. The narrative grew quickly, fueled by excitement, pride, and a sense that this moment had to be bigger than anything before it. But the truth, while slightly different, was no less powerful. Joe Lombardo did publicly acknowledge and support the celebration. The recognition had backing from officials, from the city, from the state's leadership. But it wasn't about handing over a singular, exclusive trophy. It was something far more meaningful than that, because trophies collect dust, cities don't. What Bruno Mars received wasn't just an award. It was integration. That he became part of Las Vegas itself, and that distinction matters more than most people realize, because awards, even the biggest ones, Grammys, Billboard honors, lifetime achievement titles, they exist within the industry. They are decided by committees, voted on, debated, sometimes even criticized. But this? This came from a place beyond the music industry. This came from a city that lives and breathes entertainment. A city that depends on performers not just to succeed, but to deliver, night after night, year after year. And Bruno Mars did exactly that. Over 140 shows. Think about that number for a second. Each performance wasn't just a repetition, it was an experience. A carefully crafted moment where every note, every movement, every second mattered. In a city where audiences are some of the toughest in the world, where people have seen everything, he didn't just meet expectations, that he exceeded them, again, and again, and again. That's why this moment happened, not because of a viral hit. Not because of a single album. Not because of a trending controversy or a fleeting moment of fame. But because of consistency. Excellence. Dedication to a craft that demands perfection in a place that rewards nothing less, and somewhere in the middle of all this, something shifted, the narrative changed, because suddenly, people weren't just asking what Bruno Mars had achieved, they were asking what this meant. What does it mean when a city like Las Vegas gives you a street? What does it mean when they dedicate a day to your name? What does it mean when your presence becomes so deeply tied to a place that it feels impossible to separate? The two? The answer isn't simple, but it's powerful. It means you've crossed a line that very few artists ever reached. You're no longer just a performer. You're a symbol. A representation of what that city stands for. Energy. Showmanship. Excellence. Entertainment at its highest level, and if you look back at the names that have reached that level, Elvis, Sinatra, you start to understand why this moment feels different, because those names aren't just remembered. They're embedded, and now, so is Bruno Mars. There's also another layer to this story that often gets overlooked. Beyond the performances, beyond the music, beyond the accolades, there's impact. Real, tangible impact on the city itself. Las Vegas thrives on entertainment. It's the engine that keeps everything moving. Hotels, casinos, restaurants, nightlife, it all connects back to the ability to draw people in and give them something unforgettable, and Bruno Mars did that. His shows weren't just popular, they were destinations. Events that people traveled for. Experiences that became part of someone's story, their memory of being in Las Vegas. That kind of influence doesn't go unnoticed. It builds over time, quietly at first. Then steadily. Then undeniably, until one day, the city looks at you and says, you're not just part of this anymore. You are this. And that's exactly what happened. So when people say this moment is bigger than a Grammy, they're not dismissing the importance of traditional awards. They're recognizing something different, because a Grammy celebrates a moment, this celebrates a legacy. A Grammy says, you were the best this year. This says, you changed this place forever. And that's a completely different level of recognition. As the parade came to an end and the crowd slowly began to disperse, there was a lingering feeling in the air. Something that didn't fade with the music or disappear with the lights. It was the realization that everyone who had witnessed that moment had seen history unfold, not the kind of history that gets debated or reinterpreted years later, but the kind that feels undeniable the second it happens, and maybe that's why the story continues to spread. Why it gets retold, reshaped, sometimes exaggerated. Because at its core, it carries something rare. A moment where success, timing, and impact aligned perfectly. A moment where a city known for its legends made room for another. A moment where Bruno Mars didn't just perform in Las Vegas. He became Las Vegas, and long after the headlines fade, long after new artists take the stage and new stories begin, there will still be a street with his name on it. There will still be a day that belongs to him, and there will always be that moment in 2026 when everything changed, because in a city built on unforgettable nights, this wasn't just another show, this was the night Las Vegas made a legend permanent, and if you listen closely, even now, there's an echo of that moment that hasn't faded. It lives in the hum of traffic passing beneath that street sign, in the conversations of tourists who stop and ask, who was important enough to have a road named after them? And then someone answers, not just a singer, a legend in this city, because what happened that day didn't end when the parade was over. It didn't disappear when the lights dimmed or when the crowd went home. It settled into the foundation of Las Vegas itself, becoming part of its story, just like Elvis Presley once did, just like Frank Sinatra once did, and maybe that's the most powerful part of all. Years from now, someone will walk down that street without ever having seen the parade, without knowing the full story, without hearing the roar of that crowd. But the name will still be there. The legacy will still be there, because moments fade, but what Bruno Mars earned in Las Vegas was never meant to.